that way we can understand that they were a lot more like us than we might realize, and in turn we can be a lot more like them too. I'm Grace Morbitzer, and I am the owner and artist behind the Modern Saints, which is a collection of icons of saints painted as if they were living today. So I do a lot of research about where they were from, when they lived, what their lives were like, what they might have been interested in, their hobbies, what they spent their life doing, and I interpret those things into how they would look if they were walking around in the 21st century. They all have expressions, they all have their own style, and they all are wearing things that we would see someone just outside wearing today. And that way we can understand that they were a lot more like us than we might realize, and in turn we can be a lot more like them too. Iconography actually has a very specific, very important tradition associated with it. There's a certain type of paint that needs to be used, a certain number of layers, a way that you start, certain saints that you start with, and you always need to copy off of older icons. And they're actually described as being written, since they're sort of seen as a visual companion to prayers and the Bible itself, a way of learning, a way of teaching, and a way of contemplating too. So I take some of the writing from ancient, often Byzantine or Greek icons that have the saints' names, just to denote who they are, and just to keep it with the tradition so that it's a similar style, really. You can see the Greek writing. It's usually just the saint's name and maybe an address such as Hail or Holy or Saint. And for each one of these it has their names on it as well. And there's a plain background. Often ancient iconography would use gold as a symbol of heaven, but I think that the other colors can do just as good of a job of that. And they also have halos, which designate their status as a saint or a holy person. And they also are just shown mostly from the head, shoulders up. And some icons were full body as well, but these ones are more for prayer, more for contemplation rather than for telling a story or for history. This one is Marie Therese, who was one of the Marianist founders, of course, and she spent a lot of her life caring for other people. That was really her main goal. She had a really large family that she grew up taking care of, and she was planning on retiring and just taking care of them for the rest of her life until she met Father Chaminade, who encouraged her to help out with his underground ministries during the Revolution. And then later she also met with a friend who introduced her to a home for repentant prostitutes, and she found that this was really what her calling was to be, to take care of these women and to really reform this house so it was healthier for them and not seen as a punishment but rather as a sanctuary for them. So she would go while they were underground to go get fresh food for the people who needed it in the community, and then she continued to do the same thing in this home. So she's shown with some produce that she's carrying. She's also always portrayed in a really particular hat, bonnet. And so keeping her in this, but a more modern version, would be a way of transporting her to the 21st century. And really just her expression is one also of being serious about what she knew she needed to do, but also caring at the same time, being very gentle while at the same time not really putting up with any nonsense. But one of the stories about her is that when they would run out of food in the home, she would say that she would pray for their needs being met, and almost immediately someone would bring food when they most needed it. And so her reliance on just really this providence was part of her story as well. This one is Father Chaminade. His big idea for this whole group was really something that was integral to his story, whereas other members did some very physical parts of the founding and very active parts of the founding, his dream really is what carried him through all of this. And it was that idea that really began all of these efforts. And he just knew that if he could recruit anyone that he knew that had these skills that he needed, he could make that dream come true. And so as his role as really the dreamer behind all of this, he is holding a mind map type diagram that might be displaying what his ideas and plans are for the Marianists. And he also has a bit of a worried expression. He did have to go undercover and into hiding many times in his life. He was also exiled from all the people and places that he loved, and had to go into disguise once in a while as well. So really just this worry is present on his face as well, since he had a lot of friends also desert him when he needed it, or the group, and just really being in the middle of all this turmoil gives an idea for that expression as well. This one is Adele, and with her life was really, I think, really just defined by her ability to communicate with others and to get what she was after by really reaching out to others and by just going after her dreams no matter what was in her way. So for example, when she was too young to enter a convent, she and several friends began their own group, starting to just encourage each other in the faith and do whatever they could to keep each other on this path that they were hoping for. And even though she was in more of a rural part of the country, she would reach out to others no matter where they lived. She wrote many letters and spoke to many people to begin what she wanted to begin. And this group really just spread so quickly and so impactfully because of how much of a leader she was and how great she was at communicating. And when she joined with Chaminade to continue this group and to sort of merge a bit together, that just continued even more. He relied on her for pretty much everything to do with it, because he was just so faithful in her idea and her plan and her skills as a leader as well. The key word I think that I would pick out from all of the research that I've done and from taking time to sit with these saints while I was working on their icons was really just vitality and resilience, and just the strength while also being lively. I suppose would be a good way to put it, just overcoming all of the odds basically to really just group together and revitalize something that had been just wiped out, and everyone was so just decimated at this point. The fact that they all came together and used what resources they had and what skills they had, and just each other really, and their faith and encouragement to really come together and do this. That was something I tried to really latch onto with the colors and the vibrance of these pieces and what they really symbolize as a whole. If you'd like to check out more of the Modern Saints, you can go to my website at themodernsaints.com. There's also a quiz there if you're curious about who your best patron saint could be, and you can do that. And also keep an eye out for a book coming out in September of 2023.